Welcome back to Football Daily and Sunday Vibes, one and all. As you can see, we're back at Sky. Doogie's here. He's obviously been on Sports News this morning, hence why he's wearing a nice shirt. Plaid shirt was what I was looking for, mate.
Yeah.
Looking very smart.
Thank
What were you talking about on Sky Sports News this morning?
We were talking Bruno Fernandes. I was trying to give a little bit of hope to Arsenal fans, trying to not be too down on Liverpool after a difficult last few weeks, which was a little bit testing. Trying to give a bit of background to Arne Slot as well. Yeah, it was a fun show. How are you, Joe? I feel like I always forget to ask you. How are you?
I'm doing well, man.
Potentially you're getting another cat.
I was delighted last night, has to be said. You know, had my Everton shirt on. Jared Brantwaite scored. I was doing laps. Love it. Love to see that. Really happy with the week. Well. Really happy with the week Liverpool have had.
Along with Billy Joe Armstrong, apparently Everton fan, or at least he posted a video saying, "Well done, Everton, for whipping Liverpool's ass."
I sound really ignorant. Who is Billy Joe Armstrong?
The singer of Green Day. Not exactly hot property these days. I mean, they have had their day, but
him and Sylvester Stallone.
Sylvester Stallone, Anne Hathaway, Arsenal fan as well, isn't she? That came out on the weekend. So
that did, didn't it? Big Trossard fan, Anne Hathaway. What have you been up to, Mikey?
I don't know. Was I? We did Sunday Vibes last week, didn't we?
Yeah. We need to call this out actually. Mikey on Sunday Vibes last week. I want to get this in there. Predicted, didn't he? Mikey, me and Doogie were both like, Xavi won't stay. Mikey was like, I'm telling you, I've got a little inkling that Xavi and Anders will stay. Officially staying now.
Staying now, yeah. I called it, mate.
Well done, mate.
I planted the seed. I planted the seed in Xavi's mind. I can't take full. I was also like not that convinced that he was going to stay, but I just felt, when a manager says he's going to leave, but then doesn't actually sign off on leaving. When the club wants him to stay, it just always leaves the door open, doesn't it? And Xavi is, indebted, to the club in, many ways, emotionally at least. So so that's happened. It has been a bit of a mad week. Yeah, should we just get on with it?
There's a lot of stuff going on. At the moment.
Should we crack on with the title of today's video, which is our top 10 signings of the season. We're going to do this the same sort of way we did last week's, where we run through from 10 to 1. We each present our case as to why we think that person should be in that spot. This is signings of the season, so signings from last summer that have played this full season. Who's at 10?
Do you want to go first, Diggs?
I'll put my name out there. I won't go through the honourable mentions yet because you guys might mention them at some stage, but actually at 10 I went with Artem Dovbyk of Girona.
I've got a line between him and my other number 10.
So you were in a similar sort of area.
I've got 3 players in my number 10 slot and I still haven't decided between them.
Wow, okay.
I've got Dovbyk as well. I've got Pau Torres, who I think has just been masterful for Aston Villa. I think 70% win rate with him, 25% win rate without him.
Crazy.
Aston Villa on a top 4 charge, that we haven't seen for 20 plus years. I think the last time they got into the top 4 in the Premier League was 1995.
When was the last time a non-Big Six side made the top 4? Was it Leicester when they won the league?
Newcastle last year?
Newcastle last year, of course. But still, it's still impressive, isn't it? Only Newcastle incredible. Since 2016 have done that.
So if you're saying Dovbyk, I'll say Pau Torres to be different. I've also got Seru Girassi in there.
Nice.
In my 10th.
Girassi is a weird one because he wasn't signed last summer, was he?
Signed, though. That was when the money was exchanged.
It was, but the deal was already done, wasn't it?
It was deal done.
We'll get onto it in due course.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't think you can count him. I don't think you can count him.
I've got him high. But
disqualified already.
Let's give a little bit of props to Dovbyk because he signed for €7 million last summer, and a lot of my themes throughout this are on value.
I forget how cheap that was actually. It's such a good sign.
And he'd never played in a top 5 league either. The highest he played was Dnipro in Ukraine. He'd also played for Midtjylland in the Danish Super League as well. He'd scored 6 goals in 14 games for Ukraine up till that stage as well. So not a huge name by any stretch. I certainly hadn't heard of him. I don't think anyone at Football Daily had. But he's been an absolute revelation. He didn't start any of their first 4 league games, which probably goes to suggest, maybe that Michel didn't see this sort of run of form coming as early as it did. But he started all 26 he's been available for since. 18 goals and 5 assists in the league. Remarkable stuff. Along with Bellingham, who's on 17, and Ante Budimir, who's on 16, the only players in La Liga to score over 15 goals. He scored in big games too, rather. Hat-trick versus Sevilla. He's got a brace against Barcelona. Goals also against Atletico Madrid. And Girona are third. They are 2 points behind Barcelona as we film this. That might have changed by the time this goes live, and they're 10 points ahead of 5th place Athletic Club. So they are all but guaranteed Champions League football, which is remarkable. And I know we've talked about, Savio. I know we've talked about Siankov in previous episodes as well. But Dovbyk is their main source of goals. He's their front man. He's the sort of player they build most of their attacks around. And he's been absolutely sensational. And he's one of those strikers, a little bit like Haaland, that is so topical at the moment, isn't heavily involved in play. I think it's around 14 passes per game, but just ultra clinical in the box. And 0.82 expected goals and assists per 90 for a side that have been mid-table for the last few years is really, really solid. And yeah, he's the top forward for goals per shot in La Liga. He's in the top 6% of strikers in Europe for expected goals. I think he's had a remarkable year, and he snuck in at number 10.
Nice.
Okay.
I think he was worth a shout for sure.
He's also been linked to Chelsea.
I've got another.
Please don't go
He's
to
gone
Chelsea.
for Powell with me.
I've gone. I actually have gone for Powell. I've decisively gone for Powell. He was my
Sorry,
pick
I'll
of 10.
I'm coming down on your side too.
I just think Pau Torres. I first considered putting in Vicario at number 10 because I think he's been a brilliant signing for Spurs, especially for the money, especially given how he was written off just because a lot of Premier League fans hadn't heard of him when he came in. I then switched to Van der Ven because I think he's been marginally more important for Spurs. But then I thought, well, who's actually the team who is going to qualify for the Champions League this season? And it is Aston Villa, I think. I think Villa have a huge advantage going to these last few
Especially
games.
if Arsenal beat Spurs today, as we film this.
Yeah, true. That's the thing.
Although they would have had to beat in Chelsea last night. Big game at Villa Park.
Yeah, sorry, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so we'll see. Actually, yeah, I might be
Chelsea
looking a bit silly here.
Chelsea have already been there and beaten them comfortably.
But at the same time, I just think having games in hand on your rivals at this stage of the season is a disadvantage when the other teams have actually gone and made a gap between you. So I'm still confident with Villa. Spurs still have who do they play on the penultimate day of the season as well? They still got City to play, don't they? So I think it is still an advantage of Villa. Anyway, Pau Torres, again, a player who, I think a lot of, people weren't that big on this signing when it was made. 33 million euros from Villarreal. I think he had a very good career at Villarreal, was, linked with the likes of Man United at one point, linked with Arsenal. But I think his final couple of years, I think La Liga fans, began to kind of doubt him a little bit, thought he wasn't that strong in the challenge.
He could get bullied sometimes.
Things like that. And there was this, general thinking that it was not the most risk-free transfer, but it's proved to be. At that price, he's just been absolutely unflappable. Like you say, Joe, that Villa team just looks so much more solid with him in it. Add to that the fact that this Villa back line did not look particularly strong going into the season. Mings out for the entire campaign at the start of the season. Diego Carlos coming back from an entire year out. Didn't have any Premier League experience going into this season despite being at the club for a year. Ezri Konsa has had to split minutes at centre-back and right-back this season. And yeah, I think Villa have lost 5 games since November. Pau Torres has been involved in only one of those games. So he's been so important to them. I think he's been involved in only half of their total losses for the entire season. Scored in big games as well, scored in that 2-1 win over Spurs away earlier in the season, scored the equaliser in a 1-1 draw with the Wolves around that time as well, when they were really building momentum towards that kind of winter period where they suddenly looked like they could have an outside chance at the title. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's been, still, despite those injuries, he's played 7 more games than anyone else at centre-back. I think it's hard to fault him. And also, he's not made a single error leading to a shot this season, which is actually a big improvement on when he was at Villarreal. So it's not just that people maybe doubted him too much. It's that I think he has stepped up under Unai Emery in England. Yeah. Obviously played under him before in Spain, but yeah, I think he's come on leaps and bounds.
Do you know what I found interesting during the week was, I don't know whether you saw Iraola's quotes about how Aston Villa won't suffer from tiredness like other teams in the league, where he was talking about the ability with their rest defence and the amount of time Emi Martinez spends on the ball. I think Emi Martinez has spent more time on the ball than any other player in the Premier League this season, and I think in centre-backs across Europe, Pau Torres is in the top 5. Like, his comfortable nature on the ball has allowed Villa to really change the way they defend, and I don't think many other players, or there's certainly no other. I haven't got any other defenders on the list. So I think having a defender on the list is important, and I think having a defender on the list who's be able to really change a style of play.
Well, you talk about that. I think he ranks third in the Premier League for progressive carry distance, and I mean that's super impressive because progressive carries only takes into account, I think, the most advanced 60% of the pitch. So that's not just him carrying the ball. You know, that is him basically, you know, transitioning the play across the halfway line and keeping possession in the opposition half, which of course takes a lot of pressure off the defence. So I think in every aspect of play he's been brilliant. He's never been the most active defender, despite, you know, his size. He's never been like that aerial duel winner necessarily, but in every other aspect of play he's been
man. I think we've got to shout out a defender in here because you know I suspect one of the three of us would have snubbed all defenders, you know, in favour of flashy goal scorers. I don't want to say who that is, Dukes, but have you got a defender on your list?
Yeah.
All right, I apologise. You know, throw myself under the bus.
After all that build-up,
chuck myself under the bus. Okay, you think there's been a better signing in defence than Pau Torres this season?
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's go to our nines then. I've got McAllister.
Really?
Yeah. Alexis McAllister.
I don't know.
On my list.
I didn't have him.
He's on my honourable mentions.
He's
I've got McAllister on there. I simply think that between him, it's very close between him and Van Dijk for Liverpool's Player of the Season. I think it's pretty much a toss of a coin. Van Dijk probably edges it. I don't think it's easily Van Dijk, honestly.
I wouldn't get the coin involved.
I think McAllister has been absolutely exceptional, and although Liverpool are going to probably end this season trophyless, I don't think we should discredit the season as a whole.
Of the
major ones. The League Cup. Yeah, they've won the League Cup. You know, major trophies that they were hoping to win, they're going to end trophyless. I think that McAllister's season as a whole, stepping up from Brighton, has been unbelievable. The fee was reported £35 million. It's so cheap for a player of his calibre. He's done everything. You know, he's played as a 6, he's played as an 8. His progressive pass numbers are off the scale. His tackle and interception numbers are fantastic. He's scored wonder goals as well to keep Liverpool in games. I think he's been far and away better than any of their other purchases this summer. You know, I think he's been a much better signing than Dominic Szoboszlai up to this stage, and he costs half the amount.
I think Endo comes close.
To McAllister?
I think so.
No, man. I think McAllister has been really, really good this season, and for me has been one of the best midfield signings in the league, in the Premier League. I think that Liverpool deserve to have one player in there, even though their season is kind of capitulated at the end. It's still been a very impressive campaign.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I've actually gone to Girona for Savio rather than Dovbyk. I was thinking about Dovbyk. And I'm glad that he's done well because he was kind of my pick of a player to watch in La Liga at the start of the season, just because of how good he'd been in Ukraine and just how good Girona looked in general going into the season. Didn't think they would finish in the Champions League spots, but I thought they would challenge. But I think Savio, in some ways, has come from nowhere more. I know he was very highly rated, but until this season, he hadn't made a start in a European top-flight league. Only 20 years old. And his numbers are just staggering. Obviously, when you watch him play, he's so entertaining, super skillful, just a really fun attacker to watch. But he's been so relied upon in that Girona side. He's received more progressive passes than anyone in Europe's top 5 leagues, bar Saka, Kulusevski, Martinelli and Jeremy Frimpong. So he's more involved, he's more relied upon at Girona than Florian Wirtz is for Bayer Leverkusen, more relied upon than Mohamed Salah is at Liverpool. His progressive carry numbers are amazing. Only Doku, Kavicha and Leao beat him in that sense. I just think for a player to have stepped up like that, someone who made, I think, 6 sub appearances for PSV last year, spent the majority of time with their reserve side. I think he managed like 5 starts across 3 seasons at Atletico Mineiro when he was super, super young. Just to come into a side like this with a lot more experience around him and really thrive in what has been quite a tight challenge in and around kind of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in La Liga, I think is really, really impressive. And he's now rated at around 60 million euros.
It's linked to Man City.
How much is City actually going to pay for him?
Sorry, how much? Well, probably significantly less than that.
I would imagine.
But I just think Yeah, I guess what counts against him is that it's not a permanent deal. So if we're looking at,
I agree, man,
as an investment, it's not necessary. But I just think, I don't know, like
I think can loans count in the top 10 best signings of the season for me. You know, there's no future to it.
Not necessarily, but at the same time, it doesn't matter because Girona are in the Champions League next year,
when it's that
and that's that. That's that. Like, and
that is that.
Yeah.
Who have you got in 9?
Harry Kane.
Wow.
Harold Kane.
I had him a bit higher.
I mean, the only reason I don't have him much higher is just because of the fee, and I wanted to reward value for money, as I said at the top. It couldn't, from a personal point of view, it couldn't really have gone better. You know, he's 41 goals, I think, in 40 games. He's broken the record for the most goals ever scored by a debutant in a Bundesliga season. Was on track to break Lewandowski's record. That looks unlikely now, but 7 goals, 3 assists in the Champions League as well. I think they've got a very decent chance of going all the way in the Champions League, to be totally honest. I think Real Madrid are beatable, and I think they'd be the favourites against PSG or Dortmund as well.
Thomas Tuchel with 7 days to devise a plan is a scary thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely excellent cup manager, and he's got Harry Kane, who has emerged. He's always been in the discussion, but he's just clearly been the best 9 in the world this year. I think he ranks in the top 1% of forwards for through balls. His long-range passing is exceptional. He's just a brilliant all-round player, and I think most German football fans have not discovered him this year, but have a newfound respect for him and the way he makes the rest of the team better in a way that Lewandowski didn't always do. Lewandowski was much more of a petulant player than Harry Kane, who's just the ultimate team man. And, you know, we talk about their league performance. Yes, it's not been great, but I don't think that's down to Kane. He hasn't gone longer than... His longest drought is 2 games in the Bundesliga. He missed the DFB Pokal exit, and he was the guy that stepped up and dragged them through that Lazio tie in the last 16 before they sort of comfortably eased past Arsenal in the final quarter of that tie. So yeah, massive props to Harry Kane. I imagine you guys all have him on there too.
Yeah, I've got him at 6.
I don't actually have him. He didn't quite make it.
What?
Yeah, didn't quite make it.
53 goal involvements in 41
I know,
games.
it is ridiculous. I maybe should have had him. There was just so many.
That was an oversight.
That feels like a major.
I don't know. I did think about it. It's just that I've tried to reward teams where
he could win the Champions League, man.
Yeah, he could win the Champions League, but that's not like I was saying last week with Real Madrid. It's like it's pretty much it's really hard to choose a winner out of those 4, and I just think there are
not on the list. Not on the list.
It's
just another one of your players.
Yeah, I know, but some of these teams have achieved stuff this season already.
I've seen your number 5, man, and I just can't believe he's in there over Harry Kane. We're going to come on to in a bit.
No, I think he's 8.
I've got Declan Rice.
Didn't have him.
Really?
He was an honourable mention.
Really? That's
I think
Declan Rice is way more should be on this list than Kane, just because if we're looking at long term, like Kane, I don't know how many more years Kane has.
If I'm totally honest, I didn't want Kane, Bellingham and Rice.
Why not?
Yeah.
Be honest with yourself, man. They've been 3 of the best signings in
I don't
Europe.
want 3 £300 million players, and if for one of those 2 guys to drop out, I chose Rice. I think he's been exceptional there. I don't have any issue.
I think Rice of all of the Premier League suggestions is the closest probably to winning the Premier League Player of the Year. I think for me.
What out of the players on this list? You mean?
Out of any
I've got
player
a Premier
signed
League
in the
player
summer.
significantly higher up this list.
Yeah, I know you do, but I don't think he has been, at the elite level that we've seen Declan Rice perform at every single game week. I think that
Declan Rice.
I know you can guess we're talking about Cole Palmer here. I've also got him higher, so I'm not defending him necessarily, but I just think that Rice is. His consistency and his ability to never put a foot wrong in a game is unparalleled almost in the £100 million bracket of signings over recent years. Obviously Bellingham, we're seeing him do it at the moment, and Harry Kane is kind of doing it, but Rice's consistency, man, nobody ever talks about that fee ever.
Yeah. No. I think
Arsenal have gone to a whole new level this year with him in the midfield.
Honourable mentions.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think to be honest, the higher the fee, in a lot of ways, actually, the higher the fee, I think gains my respect a lot as well. I think that's as £100 million player.
They all fail.
That's a bigger task in many ways than there's more to applaud there in some ways than we got this.
Definitely a bigger task. Is it a better signing than someone who cost 20 million and
Yeah, because
overperforms.
Rice has transformed that Arsenal midfield.
Yeah, but I think you can get some free signings and very cheap signings that transform. I mean, Cole Palmer was 40? He's transformed Chelsea.
Well, he hasn't because they've gone from 12 to 9.
He's just dragged them through. I mean, I've also got Cole Palmer on this list.
I've got Cole Palmer much higher as well, but equally, I think that Declan Rice has been a transformative figure in a team that has gone from.
It's also just a bigger. It's also just.
Okay, I mean, you've still got them at the low down your list.
And not to have him, I think, is a disrespect.
I think also it's just the risk involved as well. It's a big move for a club to make. You have to get that right. Like a free transfer, you can take or leave, can't you? Like if they don't work out, then it doesn't matter. If they do work out, then you get loads of praise for hey, you made a really risk-free choice and it's paid off. But if Declan Rice doesn't work out, then I guess I'm arguing for Harry Kane here as well. But Harry Kane's just more of a known entity. Like Declan Rice, there wasn't necessarily a guarantee that he was going to be as good as he's been.
I don't think that. He was wanted by City. He was wanted by Bayern. I think it's been an amazing signing, but I think I'm not surprised that Declan Rice.
I don't know. This time last summer, there were arguments on this channel about Declan Rice saying that Declan Rice wasn't going to be the main man at Arsenal, and he very quickly became the main.
Name some names.
I think maybe Henry Hill.
Really?
I think maybe.
His Arsenal agenda.
He's had enough praise recently, Henry Hill, for all his good takes. Who have I got number 8? I've got Victor Gyökeres at Sporting CP.
What?
What do you mean? 35 goals and 12 assists.
I've got him very high.
Oh, you got him really high?
Very high. I think that is a crazy low selection.
Yeah, fair.
What more could he have done?
He's
only won one league title in 20 years. He's going to.
Yeah, they're gonna.
He's basically forced them over the line again.
Yeah, he has been brilliant. He has been brilliant. I mean, to be honest, I could put Gyökeres higher. I could happily put him at 6.
Mate.
I could put him at 6. Don't disrespect the number 5 that I've got on my list. Don't disrespect him.
He's not had a better season than Gyökeres, man.
But he hasn't played as much football as Gyökeres
for a reason.
I'll happily put Gyökeres at 6 and put who I had at 6 before. I didn't really give much thought to the actual rankings of this bit. Yeah. I'll put Gyökeres at 6 and I'll put Jan Sommer at 8 instead. I think Jan Sommer's been brilliant for Inter, but Gyökeres is in at 6.
I like a goalkeeper on there.
Yeah, I felt like I had to get a goalkeeper on there. And I don't think there's been a better goalkeeper signing than Jan Sommer, given the context of in which he arrived. Andre Onana putting in an amazing, Andre Onana amazing in the Champions League, of course, in general, but particularly in that final against Man City, thought he was absolutely masterful. Huge connection with the Inter fans. They were really sad to see him leave, and for Jan Sommer to come in, and Inter are going to put up their best defensive performance in a 38-game season ever this season. That's pretty much guaranteed. Yeah. They're on course to concede 20 or 21 goals. That Juve managed that a couple of times in the 2010s, but with one of the greatest defensive units ever seen in football. His underlying numbers compared to Onana are really, really favourable as well. Most clean sheets in Europe's top 5 leagues. Best clean sheet percentage in Europe. Second best save rate. I think he has to be in there. He did cost money, and he is 34 years old. He's not. It's not a huge long-term one, but at the same time, he could also just be there for the next 6 years.
It's a banging shout. I haven't even got him in my 10.
Yeah. He's an honourable mention.
Inter's defence as a whole has been great, but it's if a Cherby was signed last summer, then he'd be straight in here. But he was signed 2 years ago. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. But for Skriniar to leave and for that defence to only get better, and Onana to leave as well, you could talk about Hakan Çalhanoğlu's contribution defensively as well. But Jan Sommer's not really put a foot wrong.
Who have you got
at 8? I had Jude Bellingham.
Really, that's low, man. That's so low.
I had an 8. Yeah. Again, wow. I just didn't want these £100 million signings that far up. I think he's been exceptional. I don't think the signing could have gone much better, but he did cost €103 million. I looked for value for money.
€103 million for Real Madrid to have actually done something this year, though. That's the difference that Jude Bellingham's made.
I think he's been brilliant. I mean, before a ball was kicked this year, I had Barcelona winning the league, I think, and I had Real Madrid with my outside shouts to exit in the last 16 of the Champions League. And I think without Jude Bellingham, both probably could have been achieved.
I think they would have.
Look at his contributions in El Clásicos. Look at his contributions in the Champions League. He scored in his first 3 appearances in the Champions League, often really late goals. He got a crucial assist in the last 16 versus Leipzig. He's been close to perfect, but best signing just mean, for me, you've got to look at a value for money signing, and Jude Bellingham.
I don't know.
You joker.
What
are you on about?
You guys have him.
I'm not going to reveal yet, but he's incredibly high.
I've got him number 2. I don't think, like you said, it's physically possible for him to have done any more this season. I think he has been a joke. He's 20 years old, and he could be leading this Real Madrid side to a double and finish with the Ballon d'Or at the end of this year, and you're going to have him the 8th best signing.
He's 8th best signing, yes.
He's the
8th best player.
If he wins the double, I think he'll win the Ballon d'Or, no matter what happens at the Euros.
For me, best signings. I like to reward clever work in the market, finding a bargain that overperforms, that exceeds all expectations. Jude Bellingham has exceeded my expectations.
All expectations,
far.
Yeah.
I did think he was a sensational player before he arrived at Real Madrid.
Yeah, we all did, but we didn't necessarily think he was going to have the impact he has on this team, which is which has almost never been seen before.
I didn't think he was going to be
at Real Madrid.
It's the best first season at Real Madrid anyone's ever had.
If they,
I think it's better than Ronaldo's first season.
If they win the Champions League, 8 will look quite silly. It already maybe does look a little bit silly. Maybe it is a tiny bit low. But I did want to reward the smarter pieces of businesses, the real best signings. We're not talking about best players. We're talking about best signings. Yeah. And can £100 million signing ever be in the top 3?
Because they've also beaten off competition from every other major side in Europe to get it, which I think is also plays in a little bit to it being a good signing. If everybody else wants him and you get it, it's a great bit of business.
Well, I will defend my top 7 against Jude Bellingham as we progress.
Also, £100 million. That's also £100 million for Jude Bellingham, as long as he doesn't get a horrific injury in the next few years, is amazingly cheap business.
Great value for money.
Yeah,
but let's see what happens.
So 7, Kane. Sorry,
Kane.
We've already spoken about Kane.
I've got Granit Xhaka in at 7.
Okay.
Granit Xhaka.
Moving.
Low, do you think?
Really low.
I don't even know whether I've got him.
Wow.
To be fair, it was a toss-up between for I've got 2 Leverkusen players in here, and it was between Xhaka and actually not Boniface. I was strongly considering Jonas Hoffmann as well. I think he's been absolutely brilliant, especially given that Hoffmann was the guy kind of brought in. I know, very different player, but to replace Moussa Diaby, also, very good value for money. I just think Granit Xhaka, you look at it, most passes into the final third in Europe, most progressive passes in Europe, most touches in Europe, 3rd in the Bully for progressive carry distance. He's just got everything to his name.
Got to have him higher.
But I couldn't have 2 Leverkusen players that high. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Also, come up with some huge goals as well. He's in at 7. And then I guess Gyökeres, who I've already spoken about, is at 6, but you guys will probably speak about him more.
Have you got 7?
I had Lois Openda at 7.
Lois Openda was really close to sneaking in at 10 for me as well.
I think he's had a
really
underrated season. 21 goals in 42 games.
Hasn't he got the second most non-penalty expected goals in Europe after Kane or something like that?
You're bang on right there, Mikey. You're bang on right. Yeah, I think he's been exceptional. In the summer that they lost Nkunku, lost Szoboszlai, obviously Gvardiol, but in a different area.
You got this guy ahead of Kane.
I had this guy ahead of Kane, yeah. Had to rebuild their attack. He's been the main man. I think he's been absolutely brilliant. And everyone was so excited about Benjamin Sesko. Sesko's playing really a backup role to Lois Openda. He's excellent in the air, excellent at running through balls. I think he's going to be playing for a Champions League challenger in a couple of years. Only 2 penalties amongst his 23 league goals. He's only 24 years old. I think the sky's the limit, as that cliche goes, and his form recently has been absolutely exceptional.
Did you say as that cliche goes?
Gael cliche. But 6 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 games. Leipzig as well, having a really underrated end to the season. I think they've been brilliant. No one ever really likes to give Leipzig credit because they are a bit of a fake club in many respects, or at least came from fake beginnings, and they don't fit the sort of German model, obviously. But I think they need respect for how solid their season has been, given the level of talent they lost, given the level of talent they lose pretty much every year. I think it's really, really exceptional. And his goal returns in the last 4 years in the league have gone 10, 18, 21, and now 23. Also 6 assists in the league. I think he's been brilliant.
Who have you got? Oh, have you said who you got already, Joe? At 7.
7.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You've got Harry Kane, haven't you?
Yeah.
Are we going to 6 now then?
Yeah. I've got Marcus Thuram at 6.
Ooh.
Too low for me.
What too low?
Too
So
low.
who have you got in your top 5, dude?
I
feel like you're doubling up. Marcus Thuram didn't make. It was a toss up between Jans. I only wanted one Inter player in my top 10, and I actually went for Jan Sommer instead.
I went for Thuram.
But I do like Thuram.
Based on Doogie's mysterious point about values, obviously coming in as a free transfer, I think he's, I was tossing and turning between him and Harry Kane in this position, to be honest with you. I came down on the side of Thuram just because I know he's won he's got the trophy in the locker. If Kane wins the Champions League, obviously he jumps above Marcus Thuram, I think, with the amount of output he's been able to put out there. Because obviously Marcus Thuram's output's good. 19 goal involvements, isn't it? But if Kane wins the Champions League and finishes on 60 goal involvements, then I think obviously he should be vastly higher on this list. I think his partnership with Lautaro Martinez has just been so good to watch, really. And I actually think that Inter, it wasn't spoken about enough really at the time, Inter's miss of him in the second leg against Atletico. He obviously got injured in the first leg, didn't he? And then in the second leg,
it wasn't quite
when he missed some big chances in that first leg, though.
Yeah, he did. But equally, when they don't play with him, I think it's a real noticeable hole. I
think he played. I think he was just half fit.
No, I don't think he did he?
Maybe I've got that wrong.
Maybe he did. If he did, he definitely wasn't fit though, because he was he came off injured with the hamstring problem, didn't he? And I think it was a significant problem in the second leg, not having a Marcus Thuram or having an injured Marcus Thuram. And for me, without him in that side, I don't think the forward line functions nearly as well, and I don't think you see the Inter that we've seen this season, which is basically the best Italian side for half a decade maybe.
Yeah, since probably Conte's Juve. Which is kind of crazy because Napoli last year.
Napoli last year.
Oh yeah, shit, Napoli last year, to be fair.
I think this Inter Milan side are better than them, if I'm totally honest.
Less attractive, but maybe more functional. Yeah.
A stronger squad as well, I would say overall. So I've gone your 6. Yeah, so I have gone Gyökeres here. Still low. Do you think? Still low. I guess it's just. I guess I'm probably just disrespecting the Liga Portugal a little bit here, just because I know Sporting, they have achieved a lot, but equally, Sporting over the last 4 years have been the best team in Portugal, give or take.
Haven't got over the line though on a number of occasions, and Gyökeres has got them over the line this year.
Not quite, but I mean. 2021 they win the league with 85 points. That's the most points they've ever accrued in a league season. The following year they come second, but still with 85 points. Last year they drop off a bit, and this year they're due to they're due to top that. And amazing. But I think he just doesn't make it top 5 level just because. It's just not as difficult a league. It's just not, isn't. Having said that, his numbers are up on Coventry. Scored more goals in the Liga Portugal in I think 1,500 fewer minutes than he did in the Championship. Yeah, I mean he's just amazing. His
creative numbers as well, man. His creative numbers
12 assists in all competitions.
Insane, man. Even his expected assists, I think he's in the top.
He's third for shot creating actions in Portugal. So you can't argue against him really. I'm just interested to see where he goes next. I think he's what top 3 strikers who'll be in demand this summer. What is it? Is it 100 million?
Clause?
Yeah, buyout clause. Obviously record signing at 21 million euros. He's just the full package, isn't he, as a striker? I think when you have a striker like Gyökeres who is, I think he completes around 2.5 dribbles a game as well. Is so strong, but also so quick, and can hit the ball, whilst dribbling at pace. He's a sight to behold.
Celebrations carnage as well, man. I love the the sort of the eye thing. I think that he's going to be a big pickup for somebody in the summer. Who have you got then at? Is this 5 we're doing here?
So at 6, I had Gyökeres at 5. I had Sergio Guirassy at 6, which I know you're not happy with.
I don't think it counts, man.
I mean, he was there last year, but they did sign him permanently, obviously, and fair play to them. It was a very cheap fee. He's got a really cheap release clause this summer. I think he'll definitely he should definitely be interesting in a number of clubs, although I would really like to see him stay at Stuttgart. Stuttgart are now 18 points ahead of 6th. There's obviously 5 places going to the German sides this year. I mean, in all likelihood, it hasn't quite been confirmed, but it looks like it's all but done. 27 goals in 25 games, including 25 and 23 league games. Missed quite a few games at AFCON, a couple of injuries in there. But when he's played, he's generally performed to an insanely high level. And yes, Dennis Undav has chipped in and Chris Furyk has created a number of opportunities, but Guirassy has been sensational this year. I think everyone thought, this is a 3-month thing. This is a 6-month thing. He's done it for the entire season.
But is it a 1-season thing?
I don't know. I think he's got.
I think he got double figures last year.
He's got double figures before. Right. He was useful for Rennes before without really being exceptional.
He's got West Ham written all over him.
I think he'd be a good pickup for West Ham. I actually don't think he'd be a bad pickup for United, to be honest, as a backup to Højlund.
I could see it happening.
We were talking about it in January, weren't we?
Yeah, I really don't think he's a bad option. I mean, he's been looked at supposedly by Man United, Newcastle, Spurs, Bayern, and Atletico Madrid, because the futures of Morata, Depay, and Correa are a little bit uncertain as well. Play in front of Griezmann. His age means that, he's never going to go to a much higher level as a player. But yeah, he's had an exceptional season, really solid signing, and one of those sort of hidden gems that I quite like to pick up as well. So I put him at 6.
Okay, I'm fiddling my order around a bit here actually as we do this.
Okay. Can I go on to my 5? We've all done our 6s now, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. So we're on to your 5.
Yeah, let's go on to my 5, because I think that's really disrespectful to say that Undav has just chipped in a little bit here and there.
This is the guy.
That's my number 5, because they actually did loan him.
Can we count a loan again?
Well, that's up to the viewers at home.
You've got Undav higher than
Harry Kane.
Yeah. Xhaka.
Yeah. Stuttgart almost got relegated last year.
I know.
They almost got relegated last year. You've got Guirassy at 6,
played a bigger role than Undav. Come on.
Has he? I don't know. I don't think he has necessarily. Undav's got 1 fewer goal involvement, and he doesn't take pens. He's got more goal involvements from open play than Guirassy. He puts more shots on target per 90 than anyone else in Europe. And as a result of them getting to the Champions League, they're potentially going to have to pay 20 million euros to sign him permanently, which is pretty mad. And they're not sure they're going to be able to afford that. But if they can, then they obviously will snap Brighton's hand off. And I just think, when we're talking about value, that is amazing value for a guy who, 26 goals for Union Saint-Gilloise, has always had a really good all-round game as well, always provides for his teammates. 5 goals from 6 starts for Brighton last year as well doesn't really get talked about because he was just not really in the team that much. He's really, really efficient. And when Guirassy was away at AFCON, he really stepped up, got that hat-trick in the 5-2 win over Leipzig in January. I just think he's been absolutely brilliant and has stepped up at a really important time as well. I think only Leverkusen have won more points than Stuttgart in the last 10 games. And we talk about Guirassy, sustaining that form over the season. I don't think people thought that Stuttgart were going to be able to keep up this long. And Dennis Undav has really come into his own in the second half of the season. So I think he has to be in there, man. I think his underlying numbers are absolutely outrageous, Dennis Undav.
Fair, yeah. I think in terms of forwards across Europe, of goal involvements per 90, I think he might be number 1.
Quite a few appearances off the bench.
Yeah, it does help him. That does skew the numbers slightly.
But he's up. But I think he's progressively become more of a starter as the season's gone on.
No doubt.
At 5, I've gone Boniface.
Nice.
Really?
This is why I had Boniface / Xhaka.
It's the injury just counting him out for me.
I know. I had Boniface / Xhaka in here, and I only wanted to pick one of the Leverkusen boys, and I've kind of come down the side of Boniface, and I know the injury problems do hold him back here, but I do think that, again, in big moments this season, even think of West Ham, there've been big crucial goals that he's been involved in. I think his hold-up play is sensational. I think the fee, 20 million euros looks risible now, doesn't it? Given that he's still only 23 years old, I'm sure he'll stay for another season at Leverkusen, thanks to Xabi Alonso signing that new contract, as I think most of the team will. But he's also got 10 assists. He involves other players into games really nicely. He's not just this sort of in the box bags man. I think his all-round play is really good, Victor Boniface, and I think there'll be a lot of interest in him probably next summer when he's 24. His contract's a year later, and Xabi Alonso's joined Real Madrid. I think you've got to have one of the Leverkusen boys high. I've got another Leverkusen boy even higher than him.
Yeah, same.
I think Boniface has to be a contender.
I feel like we've all gone for the same Leverkusen guy high up in this one.
Who have you got 5 Dukes?
Yorkres, who's been talked about a lot. I think he's been sensational. 4, I had Granit Xhaka.
Okay.
7 years at Arsenal. It's finished on a really high note, but there have been some real deep lows there, and I think he's been absolutely essential to Leverkusen in a way that Boniface probably hasn't, just because of his injuries, if I'm totally honest. I don't think Hoffman has either. Yeah, we'll probably all touch on Grimaldo, but I think Xhaka really deserves his moment. Crucial goals as well. That goal against Mainz, that goal against Werder Bremen, which clinched the day they clinched the league. I think it was the second goal that game. And yeah, Mikey already touched on his passing stats, but they are a joy to behold. Absolutely metronomic, and he's been essential. So I thought he's a worthy shout for 4.
Yeah, I think he's good that high.
He's 4 for you.
He's 4.
Okay, so we're into 4s here.
Into the top. Yeah.
I've gone Palmer at 4.
Nice. I've actually gone Palmer slightly higher.
I've gone Palmer at 3.
I've got Declan Rice at 4.
Yeah, I mean, remarkable, isn't it? What Palmer's been able to do, really, and the fee does look very impressive for Chelsea. Even though, if we're honest, it was an accidental signing. They wanted Michael Olise, the deal collapsed, so they ended up signing Cole Palmer, which I think maybe speaks even more volumes about kind of the recruitment direction when we've seen this output from Palmer. I don't think anybody was expecting it, and yes, we can take into account penalties, but when he isn't in the team, as we saw against Arsenal, there's just no functionality to it at all. Like, everything is linked between the lines by Cole Palmer. He can drop deep, he can beat people, he scores goals inside the box and outside the box.
It's cold in here, isn't it?
And he's immediately become a contender to start for England at the Euros.
Yeah, contender. He'll be on the plane. I hope he'll get a lot of
minutes.
He's the
first choice if Saka gets injured to play off that right hand side.
Yeah, I think he'll get. Well, maybe Foden. I think he'll get a lot of minutes.
Foden on the left.
Foden can't play on the right. He's got to play on the left, surely.
I think if Saka gets injured, I'd rather see Foden start.
Than Palmer, not off the right.
But surely Foden will just be on the left anyway.
Foden has to start every game.
But then I think there's a decent chance that Southgate uses Rashford. I'm not even joking on the left. No, obviously not to start, but I don't think. I don't think Palmer would be. You know how.
Palmer's got to be first choice to come off the bench.
Yeah, but would you rather see? So if Saka were to get injured, would you rather see Rashford on the left and Foden on the right, or would you rather Foden stays on the left and Cole Palmer comes in on the right?
Probably the latter. But what do I think Southgate would do? Probably the former.
I think that Southgate.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad shout.
I think that Southgate will trust Palmer at the Euros, man. I think that. When England need a moment, I think Cole Palmer will be he's got that sort of X factor ability, as we've seen with Chelsea, to slap one in from 25 yards or to beat 2 men and produce something out of nothing. And there's always one player in the squad, isn't there, that kind of pops after a fairly decent season. I think that he could be our Jack Grealish, where fans are just clamouring for him constantly to come on the field. And by game 3, where he hasn't played, it's almost a toxic level. And by game 3, suddenly Southgate's thinking, I might have to balance this pressure a little bit,
Everyone in the crowd's going like this.
Everybody's thinking, get Palmer on the pitch. I think Palmer will
love that celebration.
Good old Cold.
And he's unbelievable, man. He's absolutely unbelievable. Manchester-born, Withenshaw, Man United fan, playing for Chelsea.
Get him to Cold Trafford. That's what I'm saying. Get him to Cold Trafford. He has been brilliant. He's the he's been so good. He's the only player on this list who has been signed by a club who have achieved nothing this season. Like everyone else on this list, I was like, I'm gonna pick players who like the club have actually achieved something as a result of them being like. Chelsea have achieved nothing, but Cole Palmer has meant that they're not like way lower in the league.
15.
Imagine and it's mad because it's not like Chelsea haven't been as bad as a lot of people say they've been this season, but he's been the reason for that. And like you said, lots of pens, but just his overall contribution is frightening. And
35 goals or something.
Only Kane, Mbappe, and Watkins contributed more in Europe.
Crazy.
He'd only started 3 league games.
And Gyökeres.
Yeah, that's the thing.
In Euro's top 5
it's the fact he's such an unknown quantity. It's a little bit like with Savio at Girona. No one really expected him to be that good. City fans were happy for Chelsea to take him off their hands. Really, they were saying that Oscar Bob was going to be the he could be, but he hasn't been used, has he? So or not used anywhere near as much as probably people were expecting. So he's at 3 for me. You guys have talked about Declan Rice already, but I've got him in at 4. So it's just
Just the final two.
Have you? I had Gyökeres at 3.
I had Cole Palmer at 3.
Okay, you got Gyökeres at 3.
I had Gyökeres at 3. Yeah, nice. Just very, very high. But I just think
that's quite high for a signing outside the top 5 leagues.
In terms of bumped value, he on everyone basically, doesn't he? Like, he's going to go for an £80 million profit after winning his side the league, after scoring, 40 odd goals probably, and getting 15, 16 assists. I don't think that any transfer has got that well. Like, maybe the top 2, but other than that, like, it's absolutely outrageous. Like, I know that he was doing bits in the Championship, but it was the English second tier for Coventry. Like, it was a big risk for Sporting to spend 20 odd million on him. And it's just
big missed opportunity.
I don't know, mate. Let's have a look at Dennis Undav's value in a year's time. We'll see what happens. I'm joking. But
so we're into the top 2, aren't we?
Yeah.
I've got Bellingham at 2.
I've got Alex Grimaldo at 2.
I've got Grimaldo at 1.
I've done the set. I've got Bellingham at 1.
Okay, so I just don't think you can have anybody other than those 2.
Sorry?
My 8th pick.
Horror.
Crazy. So who's your 2? Because I see Grimaldo.
You know that I'm looking for value for money. I love counting the coppers. I'm a miser.
Is it a player that hasn't been mentioned? Oh,
Thuram at 2.
That's so high, man.
I don't think it is.
I think it's really high.
He's a free transfer. They didn't spend a single cent on his fee. 14 goals, 12 assists. Huge goals. Let me read the list of who he scored against in the league this year. Fiorentina, Milan ×2, Roma ×2, otherwise known as a brace, Napoli, Lazio. Huge goal against Milan on Monday to clinch the title. When he has been fit, as Joe points out, he's the first name on the team sheet. I think he has in many ways been better than Lukaku was this time last year, and given what Lukaku has achieved at Inter Milan during his time there, intermittently, I think that is going quite somewhere for a free signing to replace Lukaku's impact and more. I think he's been absolutely sensational, and I'm surprised you guys didn't have him high.
I mean, his impact isn't the same as Lukaku's when he was first at Inter. Let's get that right. Like,
better side though.
A better side. What? This is a better side.
Conte's money. Conte had spent far more on that side than Inzaghi had.
Yeah.
I mean, they're now a better team. Yeah. But they had more stars in that one.
Yeah, but I don't think he's had as good of a season as Bellingham.
No.
I think
not even close.
It's not who's had the best season. I'm not doing a Ballon d'Or list. I'm talking about who has been the best signing.
And because Bellingham has had a better season, he's been a better signing.
I just think there is a difference between who has been the best signing and who is the best player.
For me, though,
I feel like there is quite a key separation there.
I don't know. Like, there is a separation there, but I think in terms of impact, Bellingham has had a much bigger impact as a signing at Real Madrid. Like you were saying,
he's become the face.
If you did it on impact per pound.
But then free is infinite.
Well, exactly. That's why I put 2 free signings first.
Yeah, but you think Bellingham's long-term
also just risk free though.
Impact in that argument. Yeah. The amount of money
for 5 years for free.
The amount of money that Bellingham will earn that club. And what he will achieve at that club and what he could become at that club, which is one of the club's greatest ever players, if the trajectory we've seen this season was to continue, touch wood, there's no major problems for him in the future, then we will be sitting here and thinking, oh my God, we had Thuram as a better signing than Bellingham in a few years' time.
No, but you might, okay, for sure.
We look back on this in 5 years' time, this could look horrendous.
If we're looking back on this in 5 years' time, Diggy, you'll be, I was going to say Balder, that's kind of impossible. If we're looking back on this in 5 years' time, I'm not saying he's a better player, but I do think Marcus Thuram might well go down as one of the best free transfers of all time. Already in Italy, they're talking about him being up there with Pogba, being up there with Pirlo. It has been a pretty special impact.
Yeah.
On a side that have dominated Serie A.
There's no doubt. I had him 6th. He's not been the best signing.
I hate saying this because they didn't go deep in the Champions League.
I think comparing him to Pirlo and Pogba, I think that's a bit much, to be honest. I don't. He has had he has been great at Inter. He has had a great partnership with Lautaro, but I think Inter feasibly win the league without him this year. Sorry?
And Sanchez.
Well, I just don't think that one position when you've got Lautaro on the kind of form that he's been on in the last two and a half years
because of Marcus.
I'm just not that convinced, man.
If Inzaghi leaves tomorrow,
they got one of the best left wing backs in world football, providing all of this season. The midfield has been brilliant. I don't think Thuram he's not the most key cog in that side. Whereas I think Bellingham without Bellingham, I think Real Madrid feasibly don't win the league this year. And a quite average Barcelona team, like you're saying, like you kind of argued my point there, like or you argued against you having him so low. Like a very average Barcelona side, which has missed some of its key players through injury this season, feasibly win this league without Bellingham in this Real Madrid side, especially in the first, like, you look back at Real Madrid kind of first, I don't think Real Madrid have actually really hit their stride that much at all this season, and especially not in the first 2-3 months when Bellingham was having to bail them out time and time again. They looked really sluggish in the Champions League group stages in many games, even against Leipzig in the last 16. I know you called Leipzig to beat them, and you were pretty spot on in terms of how those games actually would go.
Didn't get the W.
Didn't quite, but
the two Clásicos.
This Real Madrid team are not particularly special, given the amount of talent that is at their disposal. Partly because the Benzema loss, and the injuries as well. But yeah, like you said, the Clásicos, 2 stoppage time winners in Clásicos.
That's iconic,
that in and of itself secures the title, right? He's scored 4 goals in stoppage time in total this season. And the fact that he's transformed his game under Ancelotti to become this amazing kind of midfield striker hybrid, I just think he has to be, but then, for me, number one.
I totally get your points. To be honest, I think we've just approached it in different ways, which is totally fine.
It's always the way with these things.
I feel like there's a little bit of lack of consistency in both of your selections.
How?
If you've got Bellingham that high, then don't you need Kane?
No, because
Kane
hasn't got there and won by in the league. They've lost the league to Leverkusen.
Individual
Rice hasn't yet won the league. If Rice goes and wins the league and Harry Kane wins the Champions League...
Has Kane performed significantly worse than Bellingham this year?
If Kane goes and wins the Champions League with Bayern, he jumps up into my top 3 probably. If Rice wins the league with Arsenal, he probably jumps into my top 3 as well.
So it's the titles that have done it. Okay.
But it's not just that you say the titles that have done it. Bellingham has won them the title.
Yeah.
He has himself, with his goals and his ability somehow in these magic moments to come up with something special, has actively won them the title. If Kane goes and wins them the Champions League, I'd agree. And if Arsenal win the title, I don't think you can look past Declan Rice as being the signing that changed them from being second, third up to winning that level. If these guys do that, I'd agree. Yeah. We can confirm Bellingham's already done that. He could still win the double, Bellingham here. He could win a Ballon d'Or this year, and you wouldn't have him in there as one of the best signings of the season.
Yeah. I think Kane is a slight oversight for me. He probably should be in my top 10, but I just
you didn't even have him.
Yeah, didn't even have him in the top 10.
What is more mental? Me having Bellingham 8th or Mikey not having Kane?
I think the thing is with Kane is that he has been brilliant, but I just do also, he's just also part of a more well-established team than
but it's been so
Real Madrid.
Dysfunctional, isn't it?
It has been dysfunctional, but at the same time, the majority of Kane's goals have been put on a plate for him. I'd be interested to see how many.
He scored some screamers.
He has scored some screamers, but also he scored a ton of goals from inside the 6-yard box. Not to say that that's not a skill in itself, but Leroy Sané was the best winger in Europe for the first 6 months of the season. It's not like he's not had a good supporting cast around him, at least in an attacking sense. It's really Bayern's defence that has let them down. Their attacking numbers are the best in Europe still, Bayern Munich. Whereas with Real Madrid, Vinicius has been out for large swathes of the season. Also hasn't really been a vintage Vinicius year if you compare it to last season and the season before. I would say Rodrigo has stepped up, but there's not been another really outstanding contributor in that side from Bellingham, I don't think. And it's not like their fullbacks are particularly progressive going forward. It's a weird team, this Real Madrid side, one that will be amazing in 2-3 years time, but it's not amazing right now. And Bellingham has he's become the face of the club, become the face of the biggest club of all time. It is mad, and I was massively surprised. I didn't even think he was going to have that significant an impact this season. I thought he was going to be a good signing, but I didn't even know if he was going to be starting every game.
Really?
Maybe that's from a personal standpoint, but I think he's and also his goal average as well. I think only Dovbyk and Stuani have a better goal average like per minute in the league as well, which is
so you and Bellingham at 1. Who did you have at 1?
I had Grimaldo at 1.
Mm-hmm.
I had Grimaldo at 1 just because he's got them over the line already. Again, in the Bundesliga race, I mean, still on for a treble, still unbeaten, free transfer, but also not just his value, like his actual output is just, it's almost never seen before output from a fullback. Like it's Trent levels, it's Primo Cancelo at his absolute best levels. Like it's
a bit of a hybrid of the two, isn't it? In terms of like dead ball ability, like plus the ability to kind of arrive late in the box. He's like,
and the ability to like in big moments. Like again, he's either created or scored big goals that have got Leverkusen over the line. The amount of late winners and stuff Leverkusen have scored from set pieces and things that Grimaldo has been involved in. Like, I think he's for me clearly the best bit of business, like signing wise, just because of where Leverkusen have propelled themselves to for his fee and his output and his position.
Absolutely. I think that free kick against Bayern it was about October time.
Yeah.
In that 2-2 draw,
Absolutely.
I think people were like, this Leverkusen side really mean business. And then, as you say, steps up in big moments. I remember 2 quite late assists against Karabag, which was weirdly one of their hardest games. And then now, I think it's 6 or 7 games away from just complete immortality. I think he's been sensational. So, worthy number 1. For some honourable mentions, just to give them a shout out quickly, I had Cunha down there.
Isco's in my honourable
mentions.
Oh, lovely.
Cunha's not a summer signing, was he?
Yeah, he was permanently made permanent.
Oh, right, yeah, he was January.
I had James Madison.
Here we go.
That he did, fade is the word I'm looking for. I had Bradley Barkala, Kudus, Van der Ven, Pavard, Tijani Reinders. Vicario we've already talked about. I had Endo down for a mention. Boniface, Justin Kluivert I had down for a mention. Mario Icardi and Jan Sommer, who we already talked about.
I had Isco down as well, who I think has picked up the most man of the match awards of any player in Europe this season.
Very impressive. Particularly the first half of the year.
Alexander Sorloth as well at Villarreal. Great value for money, I thought. Christian Pulisic at Milan. Did you say him already?
I didn't have Pulisic.
Christian Pulisic, I think 10 goals and 6 assists for Milan. And actually, I know Milan fans are very disappointed about like Inter, beating the title. Obviously, Pioli leaving as well, but like their business last summer, like you can't fault it too much. Like Loftus-Cheek's had a great season, Pulisic's had a great season.
Reinders,
like you're saying, Reinders. They're going to finish second probably. Like I don't think it's been as tragic
as the last
as
month really having a go at Loftus-Cheek.
Really, he had a great period between like Christmas and March. He did have a great period, didn't he? But
there's a lot of calls to get him into the England squad from Italian journalists in particular.
Yeah,
but and then Van der Ven and Vicario, obviously Kane, Wateriendo. Yeah, I think those are all my.
All right, mentions. There we go. Yep. So those were our list of the 10 best signings of the season. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know your 10 as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. We'll see you later. Bye.